Hello again YouTube, and welcome back to Just Get a Tesla. And on today's video I'm going to deal with the knotty problem of what to do when your car gets replaced by a new model. How do you keep the old one still looking fresh? Well, here in my Tesla Model Y there is the new Juniper that's coming out and the interior looks different. But can we accessorize the old car using these parts from EVBase and make it look new? So one of the things that I think was always quite controversial about Tesla's interior design was the use of wood trim. If you got the black interior, you got a load of wood. Now, my take on the wood is that I think it looks okay, but would I specify a car that had wood trim if I had a choice not to? And the answer is no. I just think there's something a little bit old-fashioned about it. Well, I think Tesla must have been listening, because on the refreshed vehicles that they've been putting out, they're taking the wood away and replacing it with something that's a little bit more modern. So I want to see if I can get the interior of the good news is that if you've got a car that has got wood trim like my Tesla Model Y, then you can accessorize it with covers for the wood. You can make the wood go away. It's still sat there underneath, but it's got a completely different look. And my friends at EVBase have sent me the parts to be able to do that on the dashboard and on the doors. But as you know, there are more changes with the Juniper refresh, and they're following on from the Highland, and they're adding things like LED strips. I will confess, I've been a little bit reticent about adding LED strips, and the first time I saw it on the Highland I was like, do we actually need this? But we're going to do it because it's the in thing, so let's add an LED strip on. One of the criticisms that I do have of the ambient lighting inside this Tesla Model Y is that it's a bit boring. It's basically white and the only choice is how bright is it, and a lot of the time it's too bright. So we're going to add a little bit extra light just to be able to make it look different. So my friends at EVBase have sent me the parts to be able to cover over the wood, to add some LED strips, and then we've got some better seatbelt covers than the furry ones that my wife had installed. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to cover the wood using these different panels. So these are for the doors, and then for the main piece of dashboard trim, this is actually in two pieces because otherwise it would be huge to actually send it, but you've got a screen to hide it behind. So what we're going to do is we're going to open a few of these up and I'll show you what we've got. So first of all, the two pieces to go on the door, and this is a really nice suede material and it does feel nice, and the idea here is pretty simple really. This is going to go onto the door and it's quite literally just going to cover over the wood. You can see, so you still got the silver trim that's there, but you're replacing the wood with basically a suede feel instead. It's a nice little accessory just to freshen things up a little bit. So this is quite literally just stuck onto the wood. So if you want to take it off again, you'll be able to do so. So when you're putting these on, I suggest that you basically push that end on first to line it up, and basically you want to put it as far as you can up into the corner as I'm doing. Let me just open the door, although the weather has gone a bit today, but basically just making sure that we have got all of the wood coat over, and it's as simple as that. I mean, it's a few self-adhesive strips on the back to hold it on, it lines up and it's done. There, you'd hardly tell there used to be any wood there at all. Okay, we have got both of the doors done. I mean, it is a good match with the colour of the dash at the top actually, so that works quite nicely. And then once it gets a little bit worn in, you're not really going to be able to tell the difference between this piece and this piece, despite obviously this being an accessory and this not being. let's get the main part of the dashboard done, because you've got this big strip of wood up here, and I think it's time for it to go away. I mean, it is quite nice and textured, I suppose. It just looks a bit odd, and I have always thought that it looks a bit odd, and had I gone for a white interior, I know I would have had a big white piece across there, but that reflects into the screen, and I like black interiors. So these are exactly the same concept as the smaller pieces for the side, just a load of adhesive and basically a lip that goes around the edge up here. I mean, looking at it, it's a slightly different shade by the look of it. It's closer to there than it is to there, but this is closer to there. I mean, that does match. There are slightly different shades in this car already, as you can see. That's a darker shade than that, and that's a darker shade than that. So it all kind of goes together, but if you look at it, it's a really good match of the trim color up here. And I think that's kind of the point. This matches the darker plastic on the doors and wraps around, and the darker plastic on the doors is already, and if you can see it over here, it's already a different shade than the lighter plastics at the top. So the darker there and the darker there, that all goes together, and then the lighter ones there. It could also just be the lighting, because actually looking at it on this side, that looks pretty close. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all the adhesive strips off, and then we're going to put these on. Okay, and then this basically align the piece on the end, and then let me just get this neatly lined up. The idea is you don't want to be able to see the wood underneath it, which we don't want to be able to see, so bear with me a second. And just like that, the wood has gone. As you can see, it's a really neat finish and matches up really nicely. So I have got a foam mount behind there and a wire, and again, because it's in two separate pieces, it all goes together rather neatly and easily. That is just the shade on that door. They are the same color, and yeah, I think it already looks smarter than it was. So what else have we still got to do? The lighting. Let's look at that next. So we've got a big bang with the actual LED strip and the connections. We've got a wiring loom to plug it in, and then a power lead, as well as a prying tool. Okay, let's get on with this.
And this is the part where I've decided to cheat, because I'm going to have to use the EVBase install video, because when I installed all of the light strips, I did so in a car park that was getting increasingly dark. So I do have a few photos from the install, but nothing dramatic. Actually, putting these wires in is pretty simple, even if you're going to hook it up at the back of the car to plug it in so that it powers on and off when the car does. Even that is just plug and play, and once you've already installed some things at the back and taken this panel off, it's actually fairly straightforward. All of the wires just shove their way through gaps, as you can see in their install, and hide away pretty neatly. You've got a choice of how to power the lights. You can use USB, the lighter socket, or plug it directly into the back of the wiring loom, as I have done. A variety of different combinations of lights in every combination that you can think of via the app. I had a play around with different light streaming colors, as you can see, before deciding on going for a steady, cool red. And so this is where you get to. In my case, I have got a red light going all the way across the dashboard, which I like, although I have had some feedback from my family that they don't. Everybody seems to like the lights down the center, and I can see why. And then you've got this light underneath the screen and by the phone chargers, which I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to do, if I'm honest, because you can't really see it, nor can you see the light that comes off it. So you can have all kinds of different settings. This is called color water flow, which is interesting, but I mean, it does light the place up, which is quite useful. I don't find it particularly distracting at night if it's on a steady color, although if it's set on something like this,
yeah, you can't drive along with this going on because it looks like you're in a disco and not a particularly good one. So in summary of this, I would say that I don't think that these accessories make my car look like a Model Y Juniper, but it is a good way of refreshing the looks. If LED colour strips is your thing and you're fed up with the wood, then this is a decent option. And if you want to do the same to your Model Y, check the link in the description and use my referral code and you get a nice discount. I'm not going to quote prices because there's people from all over the world with different prices and different currencies, so that doesn't really make a huge amount of sense. That's it for this video. Hope you have found it interesting. Like and subscribe if you have, and I will see you back here very soon on there is a channel name change coming up, but if you're subscribed, you'll find out what to.